Welcome to the Perlo Podcast. We talk construction, its people, its challenges, its opportunities. We talk to industry and trade experts, movers and shakers, and people who get buildings built right. Join us, you won't regret it. Welcome to another episode of the Perlo Podcast. I am Elissa Looney, the Director of Strategic Initiatives here at Perlo Construction, and I am joined by two gentlemen from Advanced American Construction. I have Dee Burch, the President, and Kyle Izatt, the Senior Vice President. They're here with me today to talk about a really cool endeavor. It's the Schweiger Memorial Scholarship Fund. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to start with just a general overview of what this scholarship program is, what Advanced American's role is in it, and how it's evolved over the years. Just give us a general overview of the program.
Okay. Well, Advanced American Construction was founded in 1983 by two gentlemen, Connie Schweiger and Kent Cochran. Konrad had a son, Forrest Schweiger, who was working for the company, and in 1999, he died in a tragic accident on one of our projects. And Forrest was the only son of Konrad and Cindy Schweiger, and had an incredibly bright future ahead of him, had the whole world in front of him, and we had this tragic accident. So we kind of put our heads together dealing with the grief and having the company and our founder and the founder's son involved in this, was unbelievably difficult to deal with. And we kind of discussed, what can we do to try to get some kind of positive out of this. And so we founded, at the time it was the Forrest Schweiger Memorial Scholarship Fund, and threw together a program. None of us had any real experience in doing that. We just kind of did it, and we were amazed at how quickly people, our vendors, our business associates, friends, family, responded to that and stepped up immediately to help to do that. And so we had a couple of years where Konrad and Cindy both were involved in it and attended the awards dinners where we were giving out around 12 scholarships and around $25,000 a year and getting the program started. And I'll let Kyle I'll talk here in a little bit, but Kyle was one of our scholarship winners the very first year that we had the program. So we were completely novices in doing this, and we were fortunate enough to have Kyle as one of our winners, and he's still with us trying to make this thing work. But 3 years after Forrest died, Konrad Schweiger had a massive heart attack and died in our parking lot. He had some heart issues. He had some things that he was concerned about, but he had been given a complete clean bill of health and told that, he had things under management and that no surgery was needed and that he was fine. He went to lunch with some of our guys, came back and was walking across the parking lot and had a heart attack and was gone very quickly. And so we changed the name of the fund to the Schweiger Memorial Scholarship Fund at that point, and we kind of doubled down on trying to make it successful and including folks. And, kind of the core of it was Konrad was an incredibly gifted, talented, dynamic person, but he was the definition of ADD, and he was, by his own admission, a terrible employee. A terrible student, and that's why he started the company, is because, frankly, after a year or two, nobody could put up with him. And so he just was a bundle of energy and ideas and, bored quickly. And so when that happened with Konrad, we doubled down and recommitted and again, we've just had unbelievable support. I mean, your company, Elissa, is a great example of the vibe just kind of hits you, and the idea that all these talented folks, that it can make such a huge difference in their lives, are part of it. It just connects with people, and now we have, I mean, we're in a tremendous growth mode and a lot of people stepping up and getting involved. Kyle, you want to talk a little bit about your experience on being a winner that first year and kind of what you've seen?
Sure. Yeah, thank you. I was a freshman going into my sophomore year at Central Washington University, going through the construction management undergraduate program, and I came from Eastern Washington, kind of a farming community, and I had a bunch of side jobs leading into college and a bunch of money pooled up. But after cutting checks for the first and second quarter, I was out of money, and so I applied to about 5 scholarships that freshman year in my to get into the pre-major, and the Schweiger Memorial Scholarship was one of them. That was right after I graduated high school in '99, so I was in my first year in 2000 on undergraduate. And I remember I went to meet with the dean of the construction program, who was educated by Hal Pritchett under the Oregon State program, and he had the poster of Forrest, the iconic poster of him on the snowmobile, and then kind of the cliff notes of what the program was about at that time. Like you said, it was the Forrest Schweiger Memorial Program, and first ever. And I applied and got accepted, and I remember it clear as yesterday. We were at the Monarch Hotel, and you couldn't count the people in the audience, but it was a lot smaller audience than what it is today. And these folks that were in the room supporting you and building you up, I mean, they were, like Dee said, business partners, they were subs, they were suppliers, they were competitors of Advanced American Diving at the time, the unions, friends, colleagues, a lot of Cindy and Konrad's friends and family as well. And I just got hit with this, momentum and backing and the bare roots of what our industry is. And it's giving back, it's helping, it's building people up, it's not cutting anyone down. And the money was obviously a boost, but it was more the morale and the obligation to push through. The platform then and the platform now is still you go to school a quarter, you turn in your transcripts. As long as you're in good standings, then you get the next payment on thirds or quarters or semesters. And it was tough. I remember going through some tough calculus and pre-major classes where I wasn't doing as well, and you had to check in and you had to have a recovery plan real quick, or you weren't going to get that next payment. And there was a lot of backing at that time. I applied and received the scholarship the first, second, and third year, and then I went into I graduated and continued to come to the dinners. I continued to be involved, continued to, started to cut a check back to the program that gave so much to me to get started in my career, and then ultimately came to work with Advanced American in 2005 and transitioned onto the selection committee. And it's been 23 years here, and it's part of our obligation to just be part of it and build it and come up with new ideas. And you talk about the team work with Perlo and Ness Campbell and many others. We have a lot of momentum going into the next couple of years, and I'm really, really excited about where the future of this can go. I mean, the opportunity's endless. There is no ceiling.
Yeah, I think one of the really neat and maybe more unique aspects of this program is it's not just a check. It does come with that support, and the applicants have the opportunity to mark down interest in internships. So I know that Perlo currently has an intern this summer that was a recipient last summer, and we connected with him at the dinner, and that's how he came to be hired here, and he's been a great addition. He won the scholarship again this year. And so I think that that's one of the more unique aspects of this program. It's not only supporting students in financial matters, but also with career development, connections, because this is definitely an industry that is kind of who you know. That helps open a lot of doors. I want to hit on the fact that this isn't just for students. So when did it also become a scholarship program for apprentices?
Well, no, that's a great question, Elissa. We've always tried to advocate that, hey, if you're going to a trade school or you're in the crafts and you want to apply for this, that you can. And we had some instances in the early days of a handful of folks who did that. Either they were going to dive school, they were taking welding classes, they were taking classes at a community college for construction management. But we really didn't, believe it or not, it's really difficult to get people to apply for scholarships. I mean, I know, when I went to Oregon State, I was the first in my family to go to college, and I didn't understand about scholarships. I assumed that if I wasn't the valedictorian and I wasn't, a Rhodes Scholar, that applying for a scholarship was a complete waste of time. And who wants to put a bunch of time and energy in something and then get a rejection letter? So we've always had that as a possibility, but we couldn't practically find a way to make it happen. And the last couple of years, we've modified the application. Kyle spent a lot of time talking to the unions, getting them to apply. We made it clear to other folks that it's not just union apprentices, but apprentices that are with non-union contractors too. And they don't even have to be in a formal apprenticeship program. If they're just early in their career and they're trying to improve themselves and advance themselves, that they can apply. And we've really had an explosion of people. This year we had 5 of 15 that were apprentices, and the two of the top 3 winners were both apprentices. So that's really unprecedented and not something that, we're really proud of that. We think that's kind of the key to trying to figure out how to unlock other avenues and even possibly expand it further into, people that are on the finance end of the business, people that are on the business development end of the business, people that are, all the people that contribute to making us successful. We don't want to exclude anyone. We want anyone who wants to make a future. I think that, one of the things that we love about this is that, we believe the construction industry, I know the construction industry is really, in the business world, it's the closest there is to a true meritocracy, where you go to school, how many people in your family went to college, all those things don't really matter. All our companies care about is the person and what they can achieve, and not where they came from or how they got here. It's just, what do you bring to the table? Are you engaged? Can you contribute? And so, this program is not about the highest grades and strictly students in that level. It's really about somebody that could use a helping hand, a hand up instead of a hand out. And one of the things that's been amazing is that when you get one of these scholarships, there's almost no examples of, I shouldn't say no, but there's very few examples of students dropping off the grid, like their grades drop way down, they change their mind 3 times about their majors. They pretty much stay the course. And when you talk to them, without us doing anything in particular, they just feel an obligation to see it through and make positive changes and advance their career, because all these people believed in them and supported them and recognized their efforts. And so, and I'm going on and on, but just real quickly, Kyle was the first person that we had, the scholarship winner, that actually contributed back to the scholarship. We have a lot of people now that do that, but Kyle was the first one. And so I can remember his application, it's been a long time ago now, but he'd written an application saying he had a plan, he wanted to get through school, he wanted to do this, and then he wanted to become an owner of a construction company, and then he contributed back. And so that just kind of triggered something in me to try to get him to join us, because he got it. He understood the whole cycle of how this works. And so that's been a really interesting and fun thing about this whole program.
I think people generally understand how challenging it can be financially for students to get through school. That's a pretty common story out there. I think what's less understood is how challenging it is for people starting in the trades and apprentices. I know that for me, it was a question. Why do apprentices need help? Because they are working and making money. But the reality is that they usually, if they're in their apprenticeship program, have something like 4 weeks a year where they have to go to school for their trade. And during those weeks, they don't get paid. They also have to find projects where apprentices are accepted, which not every project or those opportunities aren't always super common. So apprentices often have to travel around the region to get work in order to fill their apprenticeship hours. So if you think about the logistics of that, they have to take 4 weeks off where they don't get paid. They also may have to travel for temporary stints, and especially right now in the housing shortage, where are you going to find an apartment where you can live for a month or 2 months and then have to come back home? So I think it is not as well known how challenging it can be for people to get through those apprentice times in their lives in order to become a journeyman. So can you talk more about that and what you've seen result from supporting those folks?
Sure. I mean, everything you described is right. The going through an apprenticeship program is incredibly challenging, and depending on the economy and what's going on, some apprentices who are incredibly talented and doing great work, the economy turns down, and unfortunately, a lot of companies view them as they want to hang on to their senior people. And so they look at it and go, well, I don't know how long this is going to last. If I'm going to hang on to people, I'm going to hang on to my 10-year foreman, which is understandable. But so then the apprentice gets cast aside, and a lot of them end up changing professions or having to figure out something else to do. So, the reason that we're excited about having the apprentices involved is I think it'll promote the idea. What we try to do is, if we get an apprentice, we almost want them to be the last one we let go, because that's the future. And, our other folks have made it, and they're going to be fine. And, we're going to take care of them also. But there's a special obligation to an apprentice to not cast them aside. If the economy dictates and things don't go, you got to do what you got to do. But you don't do that without really considering the long-term impacts of that. And this year's event and some of the apprentices that spoke, it was just unbelievably inspiring how much it meant to them to be a part of this.
Yeah, I've actually had that same question when I do go to speak with the apprenticeship at the unions. Is they completely understand the structure for an undergraduate, but how does that apply to me? And we flush that out with how many of you guys travel, over 50 miles to go to the job, or over 100 miles to go to the last job, and half the room raises their hand. And so it's reliable transportation. It's childcare there's single parents, or there's even two working parents that we have to be on the job sites at 6, 7 a.m., not 9. It's not banker's hours. So right. There's help needed in the AM and the PM sometimes for that apprentice to satisfy his or her job requirements. And so in addition to being out of work and going to the schooling, I think a lot of it is safety gear, tooling, and that's some of the most recent apprentices have communicated back to us. I was able to buy, one is a heavy duty mechanic, I was able to buy some of my HDR tooling. Some of them actually went on their own and went through some CDL classes because they weren't accepted. They were in the pre-apprenticeship coming out of high school, so they weren't in the union yet to take advantage of that training. So they went off and got some certifications and some certifications on their own that cost money, and they used those funds through the scholarship to do that. The gentleman, Forrest Campbell, facilitated that this last year before he got accepted in the union. So.
That's awesome. So Perlo's relationship with this scholarship, we built your building originally out there, and I think have been on the review committee for quite some time,
Yes.
picking the winners. But a few years ago, we, as a company, really wanted to make a bigger impact. We know that there's a labor shortage in all trades, really. We know that school is exorbitantly expensive these days, and we want to see the best talent rise no matter who they are. And I do think that this program looks at the whole person. Like you said, we're not just looking at grades. The metrics are to look at who's really a hard worker, who's getting after it, who needs that support, who needs that help up and connections in the industry to really progress their career. And when I started researching how we could provide scholarships, I was a little bit shocked by the fees that are charged for folks to manage scholarships, how much money they would actually give out. Even if we gave $100,000 a year, that might mean a $5,000 scholarship. That to me seemed unreasonable because we wanted that money to make an impact now. And we were willing to commit to a larger chunk of money every year to see that happen. So it had been suggested to me that I call you guys and talk to you about your program. And I think it was great timing because you really were making a push to grow the program. And I do think it is a huge testament to the commitment that this industry has to bringing new folks into our industry, no matter who they are, no matter what their background is. And I think the really beautiful part too is we don't have any metrics. As we're looking at these, we're not saying that they have to be X number women, X number men from low income or anything, but simply by looking at the whole person, you're getting a really diverse group of winners every year.
Yeah, organically. Yeah, you look at the past and it's all over the board.
It's all over the board.
Men, women, nationalities, and backgrounds, and it's amazing.
It really is amazing.
And our selection committee is got a roughly 20 folks, and we're willing to add more. And they come from a wide range of backgrounds, lots of different companies. Men, women, minorities. But in the end, when we look at the way that people evaluate the whole person, there's a remarkable consistency that regardless of what your view is of the world and your personal background, certain folks just rise to the top. And, the people that are on the selection committee, we share each other's scoring and show that to folks, and they're kind of blown away by the fact that this does happen organically. It is not, and nobody is trying to steer it to a person or one connection. There's enough, literally we had 17 people score this year, and I did this. I could just randomly go through and throw any two scores out, and the top 15 remain the same. So, it's when people, I have people, we had Hal Pritchett, who this year, he's been part of our program from the very beginning and come to virtually every dinner when he didn't have a health issue. He called and apologized about not being able to do it this year because he had a stroke, which is a whole nother story. But I talked to him and I said, hey, Hal, you've got this to the point now where, first of all, you don't have to apologize for having a stroke. But secondly, good results are going to happen. And, what you've helped us build here is proven to be worthwhile.
It's awesome. Well, we had some interviews done at the dinner, and so I think it would be great to take a moment and see what the students had to say about winning this scholarship and how it's impacted their lives.
This scholarship is different because it's not just a check for tuition that you're getting handed, it's hands you get to shake and connections you get to make in the industry. This summer internship with Perlo Construction has been a huge opportunity, and it's given me an idea of what being a project manager and construction management is actually like on a day-to-day, and I love it.
Through this scholarship, I was able to get involved with many opportunities at school that allow me to apply my understanding from my classes into real-world practices. Since the first time they received the scholarship, they continue to support the student throughout their journey, and that's something that I really appreciate from this scholarship.
This scholarship has given me an opportunity to work for a great company. If it wasn't for this scholarship, I wouldn't be in the position I am today. So I really am extremely grateful for that.
The scholarship opens up so many opportunities. I don't have to work as much during school, and I can actually do what I want, join the clubs I want, and just follow my dreams.
Especially nowadays with insane tuition rates, it's very challenging for people, especially with backgrounds like me, whose parents aren't able to afford their college education. This scholarship is able to overcome any of those obstacles. It's such a great cause for everyone, for students, for aspiring professionals in the construction industry.
I'm here in front of you today, proof that people can change, that there is hope for the second and third chancers in life, and that we can and do recover. If there's anything I can leave you with today, it would be to never give up that hope. Because honestly, I needed each and every one of you to become the person that I've become. This industry has given me a strength and drive that I never would have dreamt possible. From the deepest part of everything that is within me, I thank you all.
So I think you guys can see that there really is a diverse group of students here. They have different histories, different backgrounds. I mean, you have folks who are recovering from addiction that are now doing great in their careers. Lauren was a great speaker. She moved that room. I mean, I have to bet that most of the room was darn near in tears from her speech, right? I mean, it was incredible to hear. This scholarship is truly changing lives. And that is a great testament to your work primarily and your passion for this scholarship.
Well, you know, what happened with Forrest and Konrad, obviously, you know, is a huge motivator for that. You know, you think about people that mean a lot to you, and when those kinds of tragic things happen, trying to keep their memory alive and what they were about. You know, I personally, I grew up in McMinnville, and I had, my best friend growing up was, his dad was a contractor. He was a paving contractor in McMinnville. And my senior year in high school, he called me up out of the blue, and back then going to school was a lot easier. You could make enough money in the summer to put yourself through school. It was nothing like how difficult it is now. It wasn't easy, but you could do it. And so I had worked and saved money, and I had enough money to pay my expenses, but he pulled me in and said, hey, you know, what's your plan? And he said, that sounds great. He goes, what are you going to do if your car breaks down? What are you going to do if you get sick? What are you going to do if you break an arm? What are you going to do if you get mono and you miss classes and you can't work like you're talking about? What are you going to do? And I said, well, I'll figure it out. And he goes, well, he ended up paying my tuition for the first year. Wow. Totally unsolicited. And I think, you know, in our industry, you know, getting to know a lot of the folks that run companies and are just key contributors in companies, they quietly do things like that all the time. And they don't want any recognition. They don't want any acknowledgement of it. They don't make a point of sharing it with anybody unless you drag it out of them. Mm-hmm. And that, you know, I think this program taps into that, but that's ingrained. That's not us. That's ingrained in the industry.
I haven't actually thought about it in that way before, but you're absolutely right. I mean, what a cool thing. And I know as a female in this industry, it can be hard to look at it and think that it's very diverse, but it's getting that way. And programs like this are a big step in the right direction. Those efforts from people who don't want to be named, pulling people up, is another example of that. And I think just generally speaking, we are becoming a more diverse industry organically. Mm-hmm. It's not being forced, but it is coming, and it's because people have such great intentions about our work and about seeing people succeed no matter who they are. If they're willing to put in the effort, we're willing to support it.
No, I think that's 100% true. I also think it's out of necessity that we're diversifying, because
right.
where there's no way we can find enough folks that fit in the old mold to fill the needs that we all have. And so, but I think it's, I've been around a long time, and it used to be very difficult for someone to break into the field who was a woman or a minority that didn't have a connection through a family member or something. And that barrier's almost completely eliminated now. I don't see it, and it's been organic. It's not like we've had to, sit our people down and have DEI training. It's like, hey, we need help, okay? If this person is capable and they can do the job, don't you dare make it any harder on them to do what they do. Don't do that. And I think that people, they get it. They understand. We're desperately looking for talent, all of us at all levels. And there's no end in sight. So I think it naturally diversifies the workforce in a great way without it being mandated or dictated or forced.
Yep. That's a great thing. Well, is there anything else that you would want to share with people about this scholarship, what it means to you, maybe how they can get involved?
Well, I think one thing I wanted to say about the issue about relationships and how important they are is that, Perlo did build our building back. It was finished in 2006, and even though we were a contractor and a lot of our folks in the company thought we should become a building contractor, which was about the dumbest idea I'd ever heard, simply because I recognized that the talent and the relationships and the importance of having a real quality contractor who's not learning how to do it for the first time on our most important job. So we basically made a handshake arrangement with Terry Edgar, the president at the time of, I think it was Perlo McCormick.
Would have been Perlo McCormick.
I think it was
Pacific,
Perlo
I think,
McCormick at the time. So a name change ago, and a handshake agreement. And in the city of Portland, with all of those hazards and everything else, we were able to, within 16 months from the time we purchased the property, we moved in and completely redeveloped 7.5 acres. It was a handshake deal. It turned out great. The buildings held up immensely. And then years later, in talking to Galen and Jeff and yourself, Elissa, that relationship that was established through working together at AGC and then building the building, and we had times where we assisted Perlo in a couple of small ways. We don't cross paths very often, but occasionally we would help each other. And so those relationships are the key to these kinds of programs, because there's already a trust built up. There's already a feeling of goodwill, and that goes all the way back. I spoke earlier about Hal Pritchett. Hal Pritchett founded the CEM program. He brought contractors together. They contributed money to start the program. It's one of the top programs in the country now, and that was all done based on relationships and networking, and this program taps into all of that, to to pass it on, kind of pay it forward, and have people continue to give back. And one of the things we're going to emphasize going forward is the idea of the people that have been awarded scholarships, giving back and helping other folks. A lot of that happens naturally, but we're going to try to systematically go about it. If you look at our programs and on the website, every single person that's ever been awarded a scholarship is on there, and we're not great at keeping track of them all. We do bump into them, and they're scattered throughout the industry, and many of them are wildly successful and do give back, but we're going to try to make it easier and keep them in contact and try to include them in what we're trying to do going forward.
That's awesome. Makes it really evergreen.
Yeah. It's hard not to feel good about seeing somebody, for example, we were talking about Lauren Ayers, our top scholarship winner, somebody who went some really hard times, had addiction issues, had incarceration issues, to come out of that and become the top scholarship winner. I don't think you could write a better script than that.
Absolutely not. Well, I really appreciate your time coming down here to chat with us, and certainly appreciate the partnership that we've had over the years, allowing us to participate, and we're seeing the benefits, and certainly our industry is going to see the benefits, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes, because I think the momentum is only building.
Thank you, Elissa. It's a pleasure. It's always great working with you.
Yeah, look forward to the future. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Perlo Podcast. Visit us online at perlo.biz. Subscribe to catch our future episodes, and join us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube to discuss all things construction. And finally, work hard, do what's right, and make it fun. Until next time.